Hi, my name is Ken McAlpine. Welcome to Our Ventura TV. Today we have a very special guest, David Gallup. David is a passionate ocean lover and wildlife enthusiast, marine wildlife in particular, and he's parlayed that into an astonishing fine painting career. Working in the medium of the Impressionist masters, David's fine art paintings have appeared in museums throughout California and across the country. And he recently received the California Art Club's Gold Medal Award for Best Painting, which is arguably one of the finest and highest honors for a single painting in the state of California. He's the author in 2011 of this beautiful book, David Gallup, California's Channel Islands. And you can learn more about David and see his fine paintings at dgallup.com. Welcome, David. It is a pleasure to have you.
Thanks. It's a real pleasure to be here.
Now, we'll I'd like to know, people are always curious, how does an artist become an artist? Is that something that you knew at an early age you were going to become a painter, or is it ingrained in you? Tell us how you began.
I think my earliest memories of, just coloring and sitting with a coloring book, just having some crayons and paper, I thought of myself as an artist. I don't know why that is. But anything I was doing, it was I considered my marks. I was really trying to, it's funny. I had the same kind of process and take on it, much as I do now. I just wanted to do something that I felt good about and was proud of, and I wanted to learn from it. And I have no idea how that came about. I don't have my dad's not an artist or anything like that. It was just kind of, I look back and it's kind of who I was. And then as far as going forward with that. I think that just about everybody, when they're little kids, they like to draw and paint and scribble and whatever stuff. I'm kind of what happens when you don't grow out of that and you just get sucked into it more and more all the time. So
there's a lot to be said for not growing up. But now that you're a grown up, you probably have more behind your paintings than you might have at age 4. So what kind of a message are you trying to get across? And I realize that varies from painting to painting, but what is it that you're trying to say with your art? What would you like the people who are fortunate enough to enjoy your art, what message would you like to get across?
I think that's really different with every painting. There's a particular mood to each piece, and I want this statement to be kind of different for every painting. Now, paintings are done for different reasons. So some paintings are just an expression of one particular moment, and others are meant to be seen as a body of work. So, for example, for this 7-year project, what the book is grown out of was Channel Islands National Park and Marine Sanctuary investigation or sort of exploration. And so for those paintings, yes, each one was meant to stand alone, but at the same time, they're also meant to be, one face of the park, and I wanted that to look diverse. And so I had different ideas going into that because it was part of a larger project. Right now, I'm not working on a particular project, and so every piece is very much just standalone, and I'm not looking at it so much in the context of the body of work, of all my work. And it's not meant to be seen, to have a cohesive message. So the pieces now are maybe a little more individualistic and a little bit more, they have their own message a little bit more. So, you asked about what the intention of the work is, and one of the things I think that's distinctive about my work, as opposed to a lot of the artists working today who are, doing well in galleries and all that stuff. And for me, I don't really want to be putting out the same kind of message and find a formula. I'm very afraid of having a formula to the work. So each canvas for me, I'm trying to reinvent as much as possible. Yes, always learn from where I've come from and the paintings I've done before, and that's always going to be part of my style and just who I am. Those kind of things you can't change if you wanted to anyway. But going forward, pushing, growing, and making my most recent work reflect my current view of the world that I have.
So you sound as if you're looking more at a legacy than a sales chit.
Right. So yeah, definitely. I'm trying to pursue the path of the great innovative artists through art history, and sometimes that flies in the face of gallery success, which is totally fine with me.
And you mentioned that you fear formulas. I also know from personal experience that you fear cubicles. And a lot of your work takes place outside in a place that we both know and love, the Channel Islands. Can you tell us a little bit about how that even works. I mean, I don't know. Do you go out there and set up an easel on
That's-
Santa Rosa and 75-mile-an-hour winds?
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And I bring tent stakes with me, and I have to stake the easel to the ground so it doesn't just lift off and fly off into the ocean. I've painted in a dinghy or on a kayak, where I've just had to tie the kayak off to some floating kelp and sit there with the surge of the waves going over, and so you can paint the backside of the wave, as it washes up onto those rocks. This is a scene you'll know well. It goes up onto those rocks and maybe hits a little cave or something, and then that cascade, that waterfall that comes back up. But it's beautiful, and it's, how do you paint that? There's no way to go and watch that and observe it other than just get in a kayak, right? And go over to it and sit there with the waves lifting you up and passing right under you, and then you get in close enough, but you got to tie off to something. So either a little anchor on a rocky bottom, or tie the painter on the kayak off with a little bit of kelp, and just sit there. And yes, you get blown around and twisted in the wind and so on, and it's a very difficult way to work, but it's absolutely worth it. And in the end, I really look at my life very much too as, I want to look back and know I enjoyed the process of my life. And I'm going to enjoy any process, even if it makes me do a bad painting, even if it makes me do a lot of bad paintings, if I'm in a kayak when I'm working. And then if 1 out of 20 come out good, fine, I can live with that. And I just only release the stuff that I'm happy with.
Right. Well, I know it's impolite to disagree with your guests, but you nail it, because it's funny, that sort of thing is hard to translate. I mean, we've all seen it, yet somehow you've managed to put it on canvas. I mean, it's astonishing. But I guess a lot of people would say, why wouldn't you just go out, take a picture, a bunch of digital shots, and then go back to your home and paint in a place where your paint isn't blowing off a cliff?
You're absolutely right, and so many people say that, and so many artists work that way. I can tell you that I can look at a painting right away and know if it was seen through the eye of an artist or passed through the mechanical filter of a camera on the way to the artist. And I'll give you another good example of this. There was a painting I did. You mentioned this award. I won the gold medal for best painting. It's the award that I can think, if I'm just going to win one award in my life, that's really the one that I would choose as the most prestigious. And I was lucky enough to get that a couple of years back for a painting called Twice Humbled.
That's a beautiful painting. That's the Orcas, that's Anna Kappa.
That is.
That's the one you look at and your knees turn to jelly.
Thank you,
yeah,
thank you.
Yeah.
Which is a pretty big painting too.
It's huge too. Yeah. I have fear of heights, so I get that with that. But go ahead, it's a beautiful painting.
And that's one, my neighbor took me out on a boat, and we were going to circumnavigate Anna Kappa, and I was just going to look for painting ideas and stuff, and I brought my camera with me. I'd never painted on a boat at that point. I had often used photos to help, finish a painting, or even sometimes start a painting that was done from a difficult viewpoint, or much the way that pretty much everyone else works. So I went out on this boat, and then we came upon this scene, right? And I should mention the whales we saw right after the place where I painted it. So it was 2 separate encounters that got fused into one painting.
And these are orcas you're talking about, right? Killer whales, for lack of a better word?
They're actually orcas in the painting. They were Menke whales in person.
Okay.
I made them orcas in the painting because I needed the spout, and Menke doesn't have a distinctive spout. But
Oh,
part of the
interesting.
composition, when
I
you're
didn't
looking
know
at that
that.
painting, there's a spout that's an important part of the composition in that.
Okay.
And also I had been really itching to paint killer whales ever since I found out that they lived right here off the coast.
Yeah,
which
isn't that surprising?
I grew up here not knowing that they were here, And in fact, when I was diving out there, if someone had come by and said, "Hey, there's some killer whales coming over, you might want to be careful," I'd be like, "Yeah, what are we in Vancouver?"
Right. How interesting. That is interesting.
So when I did find out they were here, I thought, wow, that's something I got to paint, Anyway, so I told him to stop the boat, when we got to that cliff that you're looking up there. And I must have taken 200 pictures there. I had my digital camera, so you can just shoot whatever. I'm shooting. And he's, my neighbor whose boat it is, he's like, what are you after here? I'm trying to see what you see in this, and I'm just looking up and I'm just seeing a big wall of dirt, and what could you possibly, and I said, I don't know what I'm gonna do with this exactly, but believe me, there's something great in this. And I just feel something here that is so profound. And he's like, all right, do what you want. So I'm taking all these pictures. And then right after that, we moved down the island a little bit and we came across the whales, and I realized that same feeling of looking up at those cliffs that humbled feeling, just that smallness in the presence of nature is much the same as when you're around whales in a tiny boat out in the ocean. And again, it was like, wow, they're big, we're small. Just being overwhelmed at sort of your own insignificance in the grand picture, right? And so that's how the title Twice Humbled came about. And by taking that same emotional motif, if you will, and repeating it in the painting, that's how I'm trying to communicate that feeling within the work. Right?
It worked, yeah, and that's a lovely feeling too,
So,
isn't it?
thanks.
That insignificance.
Yeah, it is. It's wonderful,
mean,
and it's universal. As much as it's personal, and you're there and feeling it, and you may not even want to share it. It kind of feels so personal. At the same time, we've all felt it, right? So I got home, and I had all these photos of this, and I couldn't wait to plug them into the computer and start working. The moment I got home, I just ran and did it, and started looking through them all, and I just saw photos of dirt. I saw what my neighbor had seen there. And so immediately what I did is I unplugged it and I turned it off. And I think for the first time really in my life, I had started working from memory based on the emotional memory that I had of a place. And obviously it was a real successful method for me. That painting was a real breakthrough for me. And there was no photo reference at all on that. It's just kind of working from a pure place of what do I remember that feeling like, and then paint that. And that's something that now, going forward, as I'm doing a lot of more underwater paintings, which I guess we'll talk about.
Right,
but,
right.
People ask if I take a camera with me, and I say no, and they say, how could you possibly do that? But the process is very much the same, and it's what I found to be good for me on that day, which is just go have an experience, and then work from that feeling of the experience. And
Now with the underwater work, David, you're diving, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So obviously, unless you have one of those chalk things, there's little opportunity to jot things down. So it's all...
Yeah, I mean, you could take a grease pencil with you and do sketches
Pretty
and stuff,
ineffective.
but
I've tried
yeah,
that.
pretty ineffective.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
But for me, yeah, it's about, like I say, I want to look back at my life and know what experiences I had, what things I felt, and go and just, I want to taste this world so much, and just know that I've done my best to do that. That's to me a big part of living the life of an artist or a poet, a writer. We're a musician, any kind of artist. You have to go and really experience nature, discover your world. And once you've done that, then you can bring that into the work. And I don't think that, a mechanical interface like a camera only gets in the way. And because you take it with you when you're having that experience, instead of just having the experience, you're thinking, I gotta shoot that, and you're thinking about, you're looking at it through a lens instead of looking at it in person. It becomes a job instead of just an experience. And so for me, have the experience and use that as your fuel for the painting.
Now, do you have future plans? I mean, anything that you're working on at the moment that you're really excited about, or?
I am always excited about 100 things that
Perfect
I'm doing
answer.
in my work.
Ridiculous question. Perfect
No,
answer.
no. It's a
Yeah.
great question, and there's probably something every day that I could think of. I just stretched out a big canvas for that show that I talked about, the California Art Club's Gold Medal exhibition, is coming up this June. And
You're allowed to be a repeat winner?
This is, you are, although it doesn't tend to work that way. You've got a crowd of people, and they're acknowledging the accomplishment of the artist as much as the piece in that award.
Oh, okay.
So, you'd probably be a repeat winner after 10 years or something like that. I don't think it's happened in less time than that. So, but nonetheless, every painting that I put in, I want to, feel like I'm putting in something that's competing for the prize. I want to put in something, that really astounds people and is a big and important piece. And so I've got my canvas stretched out for that, and I'm looking at doing something maybe with a shark fisherman.
Oh,
so.
Great. Now we're just about out of time. Is there anything you'd like to add, advice to painters, or anything at all that you think is important?
Advice to painters is a great thing. And I would say the thing that matters most is just your philosophy on it. Figure out who you want to be and what you want to do with your work. If you want to make money, there's a lot of opportunities to do that. Even as a fine artist, you can come in and find your formula, get your look down, and do that kind of thing. But if you want to, really enjoy your life, forget about all that kind of success and think about the success of your work. And I think if you do that, you'll communicate to people, and the people who react to your work will find you without you having to be such a businessman, and you have a much better path and very fulfilling life.
Thank you, David. This has been a very enlightening day for all of us, and I'd like to thank David Gallup for taking the time to come in and talk to us. You can check out his work, which is exceptional, at dgallup, that's DGALLUP.com. And it is just gorgeous. And you can also check out the Channel Islands right out our front door. Thanks for watching.